Today, we're going to talk about the tragic and just deeply disturbing case of Lissa Dodd. Now, this is a story about a young life that was absolutely full of promise, cut short by an act of unimaginable violence. We're going to tell it with the utmost respect for her and for her family. So, let's go back to the night of June 8th, 2022. We're in a quiet apartment building in Alton, Illinois. A neighbor would later describe hearing some muffled yelling, loud thuds, and then this. A scream that was so loud, so intense, it just pierced the night. And then, complete silence. The very next day, that chilling silence was about to be broken in the most horrifying way possible. On June 9th, Lissa's mom, Heidi Noel, showed up at her daughter's apartment, and she was already deeply, deeply worried. You see, Lissa was the kind of daughter who always answered her mom's calls. So after 15 hours of nothing, Heidi just knew something was terribly wrong. She used her key to let herself in, and what she saw was so awful that just 2 minutes later, she was on the phone with 911, her voice trembling as she told them not only what had happened, but who she was certain was responsible. When first responders entered that apartment, they walked into a scene of absolute horror. They found Lissa's body. During that 911 call, her mother had actually pleaded with the operator, please find her head. The peace of this quiet neighborhood had just been completely and utterly shattered. To really understand the true weight of this tragedy, we have to talk about who was lost. So let's take a moment to get to know the vibrant young woman at the center of all this, Lissa Dodd. Lissa was just a bright, enthusiastic soul. She had this incredible love for animals. I mean, for her 10th birthday, instead of presents, she organized a fundraiser for a local shelter. People who knew her from her job at Dairy Queen said she was always so friendly and vibrant. And she was working hard, saving up her money because she wanted to follow in her mom's footsteps and get into the medical field. And on top of all that, here is the most heartbreaking detail of all. Lissa was 8 months pregnant. She was just weeks away from becoming a mother herself. This quote from her mom, it just captures the incredible sense of joy and anticipation that was stolen. Heidi mentioned that she'd sent out baby shower invitations just days before this happened. The whole family was calling the baby girl Baby Bean, and they were so excited, gathering everything they needed to welcome her into the world. So that night, it wasn't one life that was lost. It was two. So the big question is, how could something like this happen? Well, the answer seems to lie in Lissa's volatile 2-year relationship with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Deundrea Holloway. It was a relationship that was marked by a really terrifying and escalating pattern of abuse. Deundrea Holloway was the same age as Lissa, but his life was just full of instability. He apparently had a difficult home life, he used substances, and at one point he and Lissa were actually homeless, living together in a tent. People also described some really concerning behavior. Like one time, after an argument, he was seen just repeatedly punching himself in the face. And the abuse, well, it wasn't exactly this secret. Lissa's old boss from Dairy Queen recalled that she would often come into work with black eyes, with bruises on her arms. At first, Lissa tried to make excuses, saying her dog did it. But after a while, the truth started to come out. Lissa knew she was in danger. Back in September of 2021, that's almost a full year before she was killed, she texted her boss and admitted what was happening. She said he'd beaten her again and that he had threatened her before. She was actively trying to find a safe way out. And this is just chilling. Just days before the murder, Deundrea sent a text to a friend that basically described himself as a man on the very edge. He admitted he couldn't control his anger. He wrote, "I don't know how to healthfully let out emotions without snapping." It was a terrifying preview of what was about to happen. Okay, so now let's reconstruct the timeline of what happened in Lissa's final hours on June 8th, 2022. All right, so at 9:11 p.m., security cameras capture Lissa and Deundrea getting home. This is the last time anyone sees Lissa alive. Then, around 9:45, the neighbors hear it all. The fight, the thuds, the awful screams, and then nothing. Silence. Just before midnight, Deundrea is seen on camera leaving the building alone. He's carrying a white laundry basket. And just 4 minutes after that, that same basket is caught on another camera, being thrown into a dumpster nearby. Police would later find Lissa's head inside that basket.
In the hours that followed, Deundrea's actions pretty much just confirmed his guilt. So let's take a look at the aftermath, his capture, and what the final verdict was.
Deundrea's attempts to cover his tracks were frankly bizarre and incredibly incriminating. He shows up at his mother's house in the middle of the night, cuts off the dreadlocks he'd had for 2 years, saying he needed a fresh start. He threw away his clothes. He even gave his grandmother Lissa's ID and debit card, and then he just abandoned her car on the street with a for sale sign stuck in the window. In the end, Deundrea Holloway pleaded guilty to the first-degree murder of Lissa, and also to the intentional homicide of her unborn child. He was sentenced to 60 years in prison. This case really left the community struggling with how to even process an act like this. You had Deundrea's stepfather arguing that while what he did was monstrous, Deundrea himself wasn't a monster, but a victim of a failed mental health system. The Alton police chief, on the other hand, focused squarely on the act, calling what happened completely terrible. But maybe the most powerful message to come out of all of this is from Lissa's mother, Heidi. In her victim impact statement, she delivered this incredibly powerful warning, born from just an unimaginable loss. It's a message for anyone who might be in an abusive relationship. If someone threatens to end your life, believe them. Your life depends on it. In the end, though, we want to give the final word here to Lissa herself. This is from a poem that she once shared. It's all about learning to endure, learning that you're strong and that you have worth. It's just a heartbreakingly poignant message that really speaks to the bright, loving soul that the world lost far, far too soon.